My grandmother offered my husband her wedding ring, the one she wore for 53 years. She held it out in a velvet box, her hand trembling with what looked like love, and said it was to welcome him into the family legacy. I looked at my husband, and I said, "If you touch that box, I will walk out of this house right now, and I will never come back." He froze. My sister gasped. My grandmother's smile didn't falter, but her eyes went cold as ice. She thought it was a test of his loyalty to her. It wasn't. It was a test of his loyalty to me. And the truth we both knew was hiding in plain sight. That ring wasn't a gift. It was a cage. And if he'd accepted it, it would have locked me inside with them forever. My family's business is Hale & Co. Custom woodworking. It sounds quaint, doesn't it? Like something from a postcard. An old converted textile mill on the banks of the Ashwelot River, with big, beautiful windows and the constant comforting smell of cedar and sawdust. For 3 generations, the Hale name has meant something in the world of bespoke furniture. It meant quality, artistry, a connection to the past. My grandmother, Genevieve Hale, built it from the ground up with my grandfather. She was the visionary, the iron will behind the brand. When he passed, she became the matriarch, the keeper of the flame, the living embodiment of the Hale legacy. My sister, Serena, was groomed to be her successor. Serena is everything I'm not. Polished, charismatic, a natural salesperson with a smile that could sell sand in the desert. She handles the clients, the marketing, the narrative. She's the face of Hale & Co. And me, I'm Elara. I'm the hands. I'm the one who knows the difference between white oak and red oak by the scent of the shavings. I'm the one who can read the story of a tree in its grain, who spends 10 hours straight sanding a tabletop until it feels like silk. I didn't inherit the business acumen. I inherited the talent. The quiet, messy, splinter-in-your-thumb kind of talent that doesn't look good on a brochure. I was content with that. I loved the work. I loved the wood. I thought we were a team. Serena brought in the clients, and I brought her designs to life. At least that's what everyone thought. That was the story we told. Then I met Liam. Liam is a history professor at the local university. He's quiet, thoughtful, and he sees the world in layers of detail I often miss. He doesn't see a chair. He sees the history of its design, the economic conditions that influenced its materials, the story of the person who made it. When I brought him to the mill for the first time, my grandmother was polite, but I saw the subtle appraisal in her eyes. Liam wasn't from our world. He didn't come from money. He didn't have a brand. My sister, Serena, was even more direct. A professor. How stable, she'd said, the word hanging in the air like an insult. But Liam wasn't intimidated. He loved the history of the place. He admired my work with a sincerity that felt like coming home. When we got married, it was a small, quiet affair. No press, no big announcements. Just us. And for a while, things were fine. He was my world, and the workshop was my sanctuary. But slowly, I started to feel like a ghost in my own life. The line between my designs and Serena's concepts began to blur until it disappeared entirely. It was always, "We landed the Harrison account," or "We finished the Belmont commission." We, a word that was supposed to mean partnership, started to feel like erasure. The tension wasn't in loud fights. It was in the silences. It was in the way Serena would present one of my original designs to a client and say, "I had this vision, and my sister, bless her heart, is just so wonderful at executing the technical side of things." It was in the way my grandmother would praise Serena's business savvy at family dinners while patting my hand and saying, "And Alara keeps the dust off the old tools. Every family needs its anchor." An anchor. Something that holds you in place, that stops you from moving forward. Liam saw it all. He never said, "They're diminishing you." But I'd see it in his eyes when I'd come home, exhausted and covered in sawdust, with a story about how Serena had just sold a dining set for a record price, a set I had designed, bled for, and perfected. He'd just make me a cup of tea and listen, his presence a quiet validation that I wasn't crazy. The real trouble started about 8 months ago. We got a massive commission. A private collector from New York, a man named Alistair Finch. He wanted a replica of a famous 18th century writing desk, the original of which was in a museum in France. But he wanted it made from a specific, incredibly rare type of reclaimed wood. Old-growth chestnut, harvested from a pre-blight barn in Vermont. Finding that wood was a nightmare. I spent weeks tracking it down, verifying its provenance, negotiating the price. It was astronomically expensive, but Finch was paying for authenticity. He wanted the real thing, history and all. I personally oversaw the delivery of the lumber. I remember running my hands over it, feeling the tight grain, the weight of 200 years of history. It was perfect. I began the work, spending the first week just studying the plans, making my initial cuts. Then I got a nasty flu. It knocked me out for a solid 10 days. I've never been that sick. I couldn't even get out of bed, let alone stand in a workshop. Serena was surprisingly supportive. "Don't you worry about a thing, Alara," she'd said over the phone. "I've got it covered. We have assistants. Just rest. The deadline is tight, but we'll manage." When I finally got back on my feet, the desk was nearly finished. It looked incredible. The craftsmanship was impeccable. Finch was scheduled to fly in the following week for the final inspection. I went over to it, running my hand along the edge. It was smooth, flawless, but something felt wrong. A tiny, nagging splinter in the back of my mind. The color was just a shade too uniform. The scent, it was close, but it didn't have that deep, earthy, almost sweet smell of the old-growth chestnut I'd handled. It smelled more like standard American chestnut. A good wood, a beautiful wood, but not a rare, historically priceless wood, and not the wood we had charged Alistair Finch $250,000 for. I walked over to the lumber rack, where the reclaimed planks had been stored. The pile was significantly smaller, but there was still a good amount left. I picked up a piece. Then I went back to the desk. I looked at the grain on the drawer front, then at the grain on the raw plank. They didn't match. It wasn't just a different part of the same tree. It was a different tree altogether. My blood ran cold. I walked into Serena's office. She was on the phone, laughing with a client. She waved me in. I waited until she hung up. "The Finch desk," I said, my voice barely a whisper. "The wood." Her smile tightened. "What about it? It's stunning, isn't it? Finch is going to lose his mind. It's not the Vermont wood, Serena." She leaned back in her chair, picking up a silver letter opener and examining its tip. "Alara, you were sick. You're probably just remembering it wrong. It's the right wood. The invoices match." "No," I said, my voice getting stronger. "I checked the raw planks. It's different. Where did the original lumber go?" She stood up and walked to the window, looking out over the river. We had a small issue with the initial batch. Some of it was unusable. Wood rot. We had to source a replacement quickly to meet the deadline. It's of identical quality. The supplier guaranteed it. Finch will never know the difference. Identical quality? Serena, one is a historically significant material. The other is just wood. This is fraud. She spun around, her eyes flashing. "Don't you dare use that word. It's business. It's managing a crisis. The client is getting a beautiful handcrafted desk, exactly to spec. The story is what matters. The brand is what matters. He's buying a Hale & Co. piece. He's buying us." I just stared at her. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "What happened to the original wood?" I asked again. "It's in storage," she said dismissively. "Now, if you'll excuse me, I have to prep for the client's arrival, and I expect you to be smiling right beside me when he gets here." I walked out of her office, my heart pounding in my ears. I didn't say another word. The next week, Alistair Finch arrived. He was ecstatic. He praised Serena's vision and my skilled hands, and I stood there and smiled, the lie like ash in my mouth. That night, I told Liam everything. He listened, his expression growing more and more grim. He didn't tell me what to do. He just said, "Whatever you decide, I'm with you." The weight of that "we" was the only thing holding me together. A week later, my grandmother invited us for dinner. It was a command performance. "Just a small family gathering," she'd said, "to celebrate the Finch Commission. Serena has done such a wonderful job." That was the prelude. That was the setup for the real show. The dinner was a masterclass in passive aggression. Every compliment to Serena was a backhanded slap at me. Serena just has a natural instinct for the market, for what people want, Genevieve said, looking at me. Some people are artists, and some people know how to make art valuable. Liam sat beside me, his hand resting on my knee under the table, a silent, steady pressure. After dessert, Genevieve cleared her throat. The room went silent. "We are approaching a new era for Hale & Coney," she began, her voice filled with manufactured emotion. "An era of growth, of legacy. And a legacy is not just about wood and nails. It's about family. It's about blood." She looked at Liam. Her gaze was intense, almost predatory. "Liam, you have married into this family. You have married our Elara. But a marriage is one thing. Becoming a part of a legacy, that is another." She reached beside her and produced a small dark blue velvet box. It looked ancient. "This was my wedding ring," she said, her voice dropping to a theatrical hush. "Your grandfather placed it on my finger in 1958. It has been a symbol of the Hale commitment for over half a century. A commitment to quality, to family, to doing what is necessary to protect what we have built." She opened the box. Inside, nestled on faded satin, was a simple, elegant diamond ring. It wasn't flashy, but it radiated history. It radiated power. "I want you to have it," she said, her eyes locked on Liam. "Not as a gift, as a promise. A promise that you are one of us now. That you understand what it means to be a Hale. That you will stand with us, protect our name, and be a part of our future. My heart stopped. I saw the trap for what it was. It wasn't about welcoming Liam. It was about buying his silence. It was about making him complicit. If he accepted that ring, he was accepting the lies. He was accepting the fraud of the Finch desk. He was accepting Serena's narrative and my erasure. He was agreeing to be a part of the cage they had been building around me my entire life. Liam looked at the ring. Then, he looked at me. I could see the conflict in his face. He knew what it meant. He knew the pressure. Serena was beaming. My grandmother's smile was triumphant. Time seemed to slow down. Liam started to reach out his hand. A polite, almost involuntary gesture. And that's when the words ripped out of my throat. Cold and sharp. "Don't," I said. Everyone looked at me. "Don't touch it." Serena's smile vanished. "Elara, what are you doing? Grandma is—" "I know what she's doing," I said, my eyes still on Liam. His hand was frozen in midair. I looked at him, and the entire world narrowed to the space between us. I didn't whisper. I said it clearly so everyone could hear. "If you touch that box, I will walk out of this house right now and I will never come back." The silence that followed was so absolute, so heavy, it felt like the whole house had run out of air. Liam slowly, deliberately, pulled his hand back and placed it on top of mine on the table. He didn't look at my grandmother. He looked at me. "Okay," he said softly. Just that one word. Okay. It was the sound of a key turning in a lock, but this time it was opening the door, not sealing it shut. My grandmother's face, which had been a mask of benevolent matriarchy, cracked. For a split second, I saw pure, unfiltered fury. Then the mask was back in place. She snapped the velvet box shut. The click echoed in the silent room. "Well," she said, her voice brittle. "It seems some people have no appreciation for history. Or for family." We left 5 minutes later. The car ride home was completely wordless. It wasn't an angry silence. It was the calm, focused silence of two people who have just survived a shipwreck and are now taking stock on the shore. We knew a line had been crossed. A declaration of war had been made, and there was no going back. When we got home, I didn't cry. I didn't rage. I felt eerily calm. The years of pent-up frustration, of being diminished and gaslighted, had finally solidified into something hard and clear. Resolve. I went downstairs to the basement. When we bought our small house, the one thing I insisted on was a space for myself. Not just a hobby corner, but a real functioning workshop. It was small, cramped, nothing like the grand space at the mill, but it was mine. All the tools were mine. The wood was mine. The designs pinned to the wall were mine. And for the past 6 months, I had been working on something in secret. A small collection of pieces, made from ethically sourced wood, based on my own original designs, under no name but my own. It was my lifeboat, my secret act of defiance. Liam came down a few minutes later and found me standing in the middle of it all, just breathing in the scent of honest work. He didn't say anything, just wrapped his arms around me from behind. "What are we going to do?" he asked quietly into my hair. I'm not sure what we are going to do, I said, turning to face him. But I know what I have to do. I can't be a part of their story anymore. I have to start writing my own. The next day, while I worked in my basement, turning my fear and anger into precise cuts and smooth joins, Liam did what he does best. He researched. He started with the ring. Using the photos he'd discreetly taken at the dinner table, he dug into old family archives, auction records, insurance appraisals. By evening, he found it. An insurance document from 1998, filed by my grandmother. It was a claim for a stolen ring. The description matched perfectly. The original ring, the one my grandfather had given her, had been stolen in a home burglary nearly 25 years ago. The one in the box was a replica. A very, very good one, but a fake nonetheless. It was a symbol of a legacy that had already been compromised, a lie built on top of a past loss. My grandmother hadn't been offering him a piece of family history. She was offering him a piece of the family mythology, a beautiful, convincing counterfeit. It was all I needed to see. The pattern was right there. Replace something valuable and authentic with a cheaper, convincing replica, and sell the story. Just like the Finch desk. That night, I made a decision. I took out my best piece of cherry wood, a plank I'd been saving for something special, and I began to design a small, simple box. A truth box. I would carve the story into it, the real one. This wasn't the first time they had stolen from me. It's funny how a single dramatic event can suddenly cast a light on your entire past, revealing a pattern you'd refuse to see. When I was in my final year of design school, my senior thesis project was a piece I called The Sparrow Desk. It was my heart and soul poured into wood. It was small, delicate, with intricate hand-carved legs that looked like a bird's bones, and a hidden compartment that opened with a secret latch. It was the first piece that was truly me. I was so proud of it. I brought it home over spring break to put the finishing touches on it in the main workshop, where I had access to better tools. Serena saw it and was mesmerized. "Elara, this is a masterpiece," she'd said. "It's genius." I beamed. It was rare praise from her, and it felt like sunshine. A month later, she called me. "I have amazing news. I submitted one of our designs to the New England Artisan Showcase, and we got in." "We?" I asked, confused. "Which design?" "The Sparrow Desk, of course," she said, as if it were obvious. "I tweaked it a little, made it a bit more marketable, but the core concept is all you. It's a collaboration." I was too young, too naive, too desperate for her approval to argue. A collaboration. Okay. I told myself that was fine. We went to the showcase. The desk was the star of the show. People swarmed it, and Serena was in her element. She told the story of the desk, her voice weaving a tale of sisterly synergy. She talked about her vision for a piece that blended modern fragility with classic strength, and how my technical skill brought it to life. I stood beside her, nodding and smiling, feeling smaller and smaller with every word she spoke. We won the Best in Show award. The plaque said, "Hale & Co. designed by Serena Hale." My name was nowhere on it when I confronted her later quietly, so no one would hear. She looked at me with genuine confusion. "Elara, what's the big deal? A win for Hale & Konami is a win for you. Your name is Hale, isn't it? This is good for the family. You're being so sensitive." I didn't have the words or the courage to fight her. She had taken my work, my soul, put her name on it, and then accused me of being selfish for wanting recognition. It was a perfect storm of manipulation, and I just shut down. They sold the desk to a wealthy collector for a staggering amount of money. The money, Serena explained, was reinvested into the business. I never saw a dime of it. I told myself it didn't matter. I could always design more things. The work was the reward. I buried the memory, but the wound never really healed. It just sat there, a quiet, festering spot of resentment that I papered over with denial. Now, sitting in my basement workshop with the truth about my grandmother's fake ring on Liam's laptop screen, the memory of the Sparrow desk came roaring back. It wasn't a one-time thing. It was their business model. Find something real. My talent, a rare piece of wood, a family heirloom, and replace it with a more profitable, controllable imitation. They weren't just selling furniture. They were selling well-crafted lies. The Hale & Company legacy wasn't built on quality and artistry. It was built on my back, and it was paid for with my silence. I looked at the small, intricate box I was carving. I knew what I had to put inside it. Not just the proof about the ring, but the proof about the desk. The next morning, I told Liam I had to go to the mill. Alone. "Are you sure?" he asked, his face tight with worry. "Yes," I said. "This is a conversation I need to have in a language they understand." I walked into the main workshop. It was early, and the only person there was Serena, sitting in her glass-walled office sipping a latte. She looked up when I entered, her expression wary. She was expecting an apology, an emotional outburst, something she could manage. She wasn't expecting what I was holding. I walked straight to the Finch desk, which was sitting in the center of the showroom floor, waiting to be shipped. I placed my small hand-carved cherry box on its surface. "What is that?" she asked, walking out to meet me. "A gift," I said. "Open it." She hesitated, then lifted the lid. Inside, nestled on a bed of wood shavings, were two things. On the left was a printout of the 1998 insurance claim for the stolen ring. On the right was a small, perfectly square-cut sample of the real Vermont chestnut wood, and next to it, an identical square cut from the wood used to make the desk. Even to a layperson, the difference in the grain and color was undeniable. It was a silent, irrefutable accusation. Serena stared at the contents of the box. She didn't speak for a full minute. She just looked from the wood samples to the insurance form, the color draining from her face. "You went behind my back," she finally whispered, her voice trembling with rage. "You went digging." "I didn't have to dig, Serena. The lie was sitting on the surface, just like this desk." "You are trying to destroy this family," she hissed. "No," I said, my voice steady and clear. "You already did that. You did it when you put your name on my desk in college. You did it when you decided to defraud a client for $250,000. You did it when you helped Grandma try to emotionally blackmail my husband with a fake ring to buy his silence. This family, this business, it's a lie. And I'm done being the person who quietly props it up." Just then, the main door opened, and my grandmother walked in. She took in the scene. Me, Serena, the open box on the desk, and her face hardened. "What is the meaning of this?" Genevieve demanded, her voice like cracking ice. Ilara is having one of her artistic temperaments, Serena sneered, recovering her composure. She thinks we've betrayed her sacred principles. She's right, I said, turning to my grandmother. I know about the ring, Grandma. The real one. The one that was stolen. Genevieve flinched, a barely perceptible tightening around her eyes. It was the only confirmation I needed. And I know about this wood, I continued, gesturing to the desk. I know you swapped it out. This isn't integrity. This isn't the Hale legacy. It's just common fraud. That's when the dam broke. Fraud? Genevieve shouted, her voice echoing in the vast space. You ungrateful little girl. I built this company with my bare hands. I built it so that you and your sister would have a future, a name. Do you have any idea what it takes to survive in this world? It takes sacrifice. It takes making hard choices. You sit in your little corner playing with your wood scraps, but you have no idea what real responsibility looks like. Is this responsibility? I shot back, my voice rising to meet hers. Lying to clients? Stealing my designs? Is that the legacy you're so proud of? Your designs? Serena laughed, a harsh, ugly sound. They were concepts, Ilara. Ideas. They would have stayed as sketches in your notebook if I hadn't made them profitable. I gave your little hobby value. You should be thanking me. Thanking you? I felt a wild, liberating laugh bubble up inside me. Thank you for what? For erasing me? For making me feel like a hired hand in my own life? The only thing of value here is the work, the truth of the material, and you've corrupted all of it. The truth doesn't pay the bills, Genevieve yelled. The truth doesn't build a brand that commands respect. We did what was necessary to protect what is ours. It's not yours, I yelled back, tears finally stinging my eyes. It was supposed to be ours, but you were never interested in a partner. You just wanted a quiet, obedient tool. And I'm done. I'm done being your tool. I turned and walked away, leaving the box, the desk, and the two of them standing there in the ruins of their own making. I didn't look back. I walked out of that mill, out of Hale & Company, and I didn't know if I would ever set foot in there again. The fallout was not immediate. It was a slow, creeping decay. For a week, there was nothing but a thick, suffocating silence. No calls, no emails. It was as if I had ceased to exist. Then, Liam got an email. It was from the dean of his department. A concerned alumnus, who wished to remain anonymous, had sent a letter to the university president. The letter accused Liam of unethical conduct, claiming he was using his position as a history professor to fraudulently appraise and sell antiques through his wife's family business, implying a conflict of interest and academic dishonesty. It was a lie, of course. A vicious, calculated one. There was no proof, just insinuation. But it was enough. The university had to launch a formal inquiry. It was a cloud of suspicion designed to ruin his reputation, to isolate us, to punish us for my defiance. 2 days later, the real attack began. A feature article appeared on a popular high-end design blog. The title was, "The Soul of the Craft. Is Hale & Company losing its way?" It was a beautifully written piece, filled with quotes from an unnamed source close to the family. It painted a picture of a legendary company in turmoil. It spoke of Serena's brilliant business mind and Genevieve's steadfast leadership. And then it described a disruptive element, a family member, an idealist with no grasp of reality who was threatening to tear the legacy apart from the inside with baseless accusations. It didn't use my name, but it didn't have to. It was a perfectly crafted PR strike, designed to discredit me before I could even speak. My phone started buzzing with messages from old colleagues, friends in the industry. "Is everything okay? Heard there was some drama at the mill. Are the rumors true? They were poisoning the well." The final blow came in the form of a legal letter, a cease and desist. It was from Alistair Finch's lawyers. He had been anonymously tipped off that there might be a material discrepancy with his commissioned desk. The letter stated that he was halting the final payment and would be sending his own independent expert to inspect the piece. If fraud was discovered, he would be seeking full damages and pressing criminal charges. They had preempted me. By leaking the story to him themselves, they could frame it as them discovering the issue and dealing with a rogue element. Me. They were setting me up to take the fall. I stood in my kitchen, holding the letters, the blog post printed out, and I felt the walls closing in. They weren't just going to let me walk away. They were going to burn me to the ground, to protect their kingdom of lies. Liam came and stood beside me, reading the documents over my shoulder. His own career was on the line. Our finances were a mess. We were being attacked on all sides. He looked exhausted, but his eyes were clear. "They left us no choice," he said. I nodded. "I know." That afternoon, I did the one thing I never thought I would do. I called Alistair Finch directly. I introduced myself, not as Serena's sister, not as a Hale & Company employee, but as the woodworker who built his desk. And then I told him everything. The whole, ugly truth. From the Sparrow desk, to the fake ring, to the wood swap. I emailed him my original sketches, the receipts for the Vermont chestnut, and high-resolution photos comparing the grain of the real wood to the wood on his desk. I gave him the truth, with no expectation of what he would do with it. When I hung up, I felt a strange sense of peace. The bomb was lit. I had no idea how big the explosion would be. For the first time in my adult life, I sleep through the night. I used to wake up at 3 a.m. with a knot in my stomach. A vague anxiety I couldn't name. It was the low-grade hum of cognitive dissonance, of knowing deep down that the story I was living was a lie. Now, the silence in my house is just silence. The work I do in my small workshop is just work. It's honest. When I finish a piece, I sign my name on the bottom. Elara. Not Hale, just Elara. And it feels right. It feels whole. The battle isn't over. Alistair Finch's lawsuit against Hale & Company is moving forward. The university's inquiry into Liam was dropped after Finch himself sent a letter to the president clarifying that Liam was the one who helped expose the fraud, not perpetrated. My grandmother and sister have retreated behind a wall of lawyers. The company is hemorrhaging clients. The brand they worked so hard to build, this gleaming facade of integrity, is crumbling under the weight of the truth. I've lost my family. That's a hard thing to write. I see my mother sometimes. She's caught in the middle, loyal to my grandmother, but heartbroken by the schism. And the conversations are strained, painful. I don't speak to Genevieve or Serena. Maybe one day there will be a reckoning, an apology, a chance for something new, but I'm not holding my breath. I've come to understand that the family I was born into, and the family I choose to build, are two different things. My family is me and Liam. Our quiet home. The life we are building based on mutual respect and shared truths. My legacy isn't the one they tried to force on me. It's the one I'm carving with my own two hands, in my own small space. It's in every honest join, every true grain, every piece that tells a real story. It's smaller, quieter, and it will never be as famous as Hale & Comedy was. But it's real. And for the first time, so am I. It turns out, walking away from the cage wasn't the end of my story. It was the beginning. So I want to ask you, the person watching this right now, have you ever been in a situation where the price of belonging was your own truth? Where you were asked to smile and nod and accept a beautiful lie because it was easier than fighting for a difficult reality? It's a lonely place to be. We're told that loyalty to family is everything, that blood is thicker than water. But I've learned that integrity is thicker than blood. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do for yourself, and even for the people you are leaving behind, is to choose the truth. It might not be the easy path, but it's the only one that leads you back to yourself. What would you have done? Did I go too far? Or was it the only way to find my way out? Let me know your story in the comments below. I'll be reading them. And if this story resonated with you, please consider sharing it. You never know who might need to hear that they're not alone. Thank you for listening.